Space Vermin from Beyond, the second game in the Invaders from Dimension X series. Some months ago I reviewed the first game in the system, Invaders from Dimension X, and you can watch that video if you so wish. This game is very similar in essence, in spirit, and in flavor and atmosphere. Space Vermin from Beyond is a solitaire war game of sci-fi combat. In a sense, it looks like a rendition of Starship Troopers, almost as if the Starship Troopers movie had been made by Mel Brooks. So it marries intense space combat with a B-movie, ironic, very self-aware sensibility. You know, since the Starship Troopers movie that we have is so bad and doesn't really capture the spirit of the book anyways, well, why not have a fun spirit? So again, there's this interesting element of intense, serious action with humor and nods and very self-aware references here and there. Space Vermin from Beyond! Also, it is a small production, desktop quality plus. That is, it comes in a Ziploc bag and it looks like desktop quality, but then actually the quality of the component is pretty professional. Starting from the color rulebook, which is very well made. The map, yes, it is a paper map, but very colorful, almost glossy. My impression is that the glossy feel comes from the fact that there's so much ink on it that it is thicker than otherwise. And it's a double-sided map representing two different battlefields that are used in the two different scenarios that come with the game. Map Zone Alpha and Beta. Also, it comes with counters that are glossy, well done, thick, really good production. Again, more than you would expect from a pseudo desktop publishing enterprise for something that comes in a Ziploc bag. And since we're talking about the counters, you have counters for your Marines. That are the people that you're leading against the big bug-eyed monsters, and the numbers that they have are for the Marines movement value. Some people have jetpack or jump packs. Then you have a defense rating and a combat rating. Other units also have some extra values. For example, there's a spawn rating for the queens in the game, but those are the main values that you have. The Marines will be around the board doing stuff in the protection of their objectives. In this scenario, they are trying to protect and recover these materials here, these crown jewels tokens. In another scenario, on the other map, they're trying to prevent a migration of the big space vermin, the big monstrous space ants. And again, there will be counters representing the monsters moving around and doing all sorts of crazy stuff. Actions of the enemies are regulated mainly by event chits. You place them in a cup. There is a larger selection than these ones. These are just to show you how they look. These event chits are drawn at the beginning of each turn. At the beginning of each turn, you draw one, and that determines several things. First, it determines the preferred direction of the vermites. You look at the box that applies to the map zone that you're using, alpha or beta, and then you place the blue arrow on the corresponding number. So, for example, this blue arrow has 1 on that indicator. There, and that is the indicator of the preferred direction. So in that case, for example, I will place it with the 1, with the blue arrow indicating that direction. Here I have a 3, so I play with the blue arrow there. And again, it all depends on the scenario that I'm playing. If I'm playing the one on map zone beta, then I look at the blue arrow on this other thing. That indicates the preferred direction of the vermites in which they will move and spend their movement allowance. Preferred because there are several factors that may come into play. Some of their units, like the drones, do not move regularly. They simply jump from X to X and they fall on your head and commit suicide attacks. Other units may have restrictions due to terrain and that kind of stuff. So in Map Zone Beta, all the units that move regularly will try to move in the direction indicated by the blue. On Map Zone Alpha, you have two numbers because the blue applies to enemy units that are south of that road that cuts the map in two, and the yellow arrow applies to units that are on the other side, on the north side of the map. So you determine their preferred direction, then you resolve the events that are associated with the movement. Yes, they don't just move and attack, but they do a lot of other annoying stuff. As you can see, there are indications under the arrows of the type of event that event counter triggers, and here in the back of the rulebook you have the table that describes very well what they do. All sort of annoying stuff, and very important to give variety to gameplay. After you resolve the event, the enemies do move. The drones, you need to roll the dice to determine when they go randomly. The other people will tend to move based on the preferred movement. Also, there may be tunnel exits in play. They are drawn from the spawn cup, so you do not know when they're going to dig one. And the soldiers, so that is a specific type of enemy counters, may use tunnels to move faster out of their nest and reach wherever they're trying to go. So first, the units of the opponent move, and then they will attack if they are adjacent to you, in case they're soldiers or other types that move on the board, or if they just fell on your head, in case they're drones. You do not need to physically dump them, but you can. Why not? It's fun once you determine that the drone has landed on the head of one of your people. Combat is very simple and is resolved pretty much in the same way for when they attack you and when you attack them, with the difference that you can attack at a distance. And usually they only attack when they are adjacent or in your same hex. So for the attack, it's a bucket of dice system. Whoever is attacking, well, you grab a bunch of dice for whoever is attacking equal to the strength of the attacker. Suppose that this unit is attacking this unit, then I will roll 4 dice. The number can be modified by distance. When the Marines move and fire, they lose a die. The terrain of the target may force you to lose a die, or may force the opponent to lose a die. So the modifiers that apply to combat modify the total number of dice will be rolled. Once you take all the modifiers into account, you roll the dice for whoever is attacking, and each number which exceeds the defense number of the target is a hit. Now, when the big bugs, the big ants give you a hit, that's nothing. You're just shaking a little bit, but you shake it off and that's fine. If they give you 2 or 3 hits, you flip your counter to its disrupted side if it wasn't disrupted, and you eliminate it if it was disrupted already. And 4 or more hits, that eliminates your counter. As you can see, when your counter is eliminated, also the weapon becomes unavailable. You can only use pistols, which have less firepower and also have less range, which is bad, because otherwise weapons that are not pistols usually have unlimited range. It's very important. You don't want to be close to these guys also, because when they die, they explode into a cloud of parasites that may infect you and may do bad stuff to you, and may kill your people. So they attack you with this system here, and then finally they also spawn, so you add new people. You had new big vermin to the board by drawing them randomly from the spawn cup. Then finally it is your turn. First you resolve possible effects from infections that you got when those guys exploded in previous turns. And then you take actions. Your people may simply attack by firing at a range. They need to have line of sight and all those things that we know from wargaming. They can fire. There is unlimited range unless they're using pistols. they can move and fire, move at a lower rate, fire with a penalty. Some units have special actions, so for example, headquarter may call for reinforcements and that kind of stuff. But the idea is that, again, it's your turn to perform special actions and very often to move and fire the opponent. There's also a special unit that is somewhere in the counter tray here, can't find him. He's a scientist, very cool scientist that goes around on a Harley Davidson, so it can be flipped on its Harley side, in which he moves, or it can be on his like thinking side. And when he's on his thinking side, he can produce special weapons for you. And you simply follow the instructions that in the rulebook that tell you what the special weapons do. But really neat guy. If nothing else, if not in terms of gameplay, that's an interesting element in gameplay. Just thematically, it's really cool to have this like non-stereotypical scientist, Buckaroo Banzai, because you can be a scientist and cool too. So you perform your actions, and again, when you attack, it's the same thing. You roll dice based on the combat or strength that you have. Each of your marines attack individually. Roll, try to exceed the defense of the opponent. Your bucket of dice, your pool of dice may be modified based on distance and terrain and everything that I said before. Same rules apply to them. A single hit is nothing. 2 or 3 hits disrupts them or reduces them. More than that, again, and or kill a disrupted, reduced enemy. 4 or more is a kill. Finally, you also have a recovery so that your marines that are disrupted and non-adjacent to enemy units get to flip to their fresh side, which is very important because at least my guys get disrupted all the time. I don't know about yours. And then also you get to remove some of the parasites that may have infected you. So definitely we have a game with a lot of personality, a lot of flavor, and to me this is really what makes the game interesting. Because you have elements from sci-fi from the 50s, a certain sense of naivete, but at the same time it is mixed together with a very strong sense of action, a very modern sense of like Hollywood, the blockbuster, with very quick editing, with crazy special effects. And really there is a sense of chaos on the board. But again, I really like the fact that it is both, big production, Hollywood blockbuster, and B-movie, and the two elements, the two flavors go together well. The resulting bouquet is an interesting one. But as for the action on the board, it's chaotic. It's very chaotic. There's a lot of stuff going on, which again, to me is a plus. Other people may find the experience a little too confusing and almost random. They may fail to see a method in the madness. Maybe there isn't one, but I still enjoy the madness that goes on. Because these insects disappear into the ground and come out from the tunnels, drop on your head from the sky, move around, explode into these clouds of like murderous dust full of parasites. A lot of crazy stuff. And actually, as I was reading the rules and seeing all of the various effects and all the things that you have to do to bring the monsters to life, to make them act, I was afraid it was going to be one of those solitaire games where you were going to spend a lot of time implementing the AI and then not much on doing your own things. One of those games where you move a million pieces when you are playing the role of the AI, and then it's your turn, you do a move, and then again to moving all of the people of the AI, and you do your thing. That turned out not to be true, luckily enough. It is true that there's a lot of stuff that you have to do for the monsters, but it is fun stuff because it's crazy, because you do not know what they're gonna do. You get to see a certain pattern, for example, a general direction, but then maybe it's a situation in which, because of the exceptions, almost no one will follow that direction that turn. But there's a general direction, there's a general flow, but within that there are a lot of actions that the monsters are performing, and that is fun to me, so I don't mind implementing all those movements, all of those actions, especially because then when it's my turn, then there's a lot of stuff that I'm doing, at least with whoever is still alive there. But I have also on my side a lot of flavor, a lot of effects, a lot of personalities, and then I have an area where there is a guy that is just shooting crazily, and another guy that is yelling, asking for support, listening to the radio, hoping that somebody will send reinforcements. Another guy is trying to heal somebody else, the scientist with the Harley driving around, another player another character with a vehicle moving things fast. So there is this crazy thing, the sense of like intense action. I can almost feel people screaming and yelling at each other as the monsters approach. To me, this is much more interesting. I saw much more interesting, compelling action in this game than the movie Starship Troopers. I mentioned it already. I don't think it's that great of a movie. It's an action movie without, I don't know, without bones, without meats. It has all of the form, all of the tricks, all the paraphernalia of an action movie, but somehow it doesn't have the personality. This game has more personality to me, and the action that they see here is much more fun. It's much more compelling, and this is what it comes down to. This is not a game that will teach you anything about history and will not teach you much about tactics, I believe, unless in the future we do get to attack a planet that is full of these crazy semi-sentient insects or insectoids. So it's not a game that has a historical perspective, that it feels like it has a depth. But precisely because of that, also there is a sense of freedom. The designer clearly wanted to have fun and wanted you to have fun. So the designer came up with just a crazy system of effects for both sides. And they go together very well. But in the sense, again, they do not go together harmoniously. They go together in a fun, crazy cacophony, in a romp in which a lot of things happening. There is randomness. Some games you will die horribly. Your game will turn out to be into a tragedy for your people. Some of the times it will be like a close victory. Some of the times you will be lucky and you'll have an easy victory. And of course, like in so many of these games, it will be easy then in following games to adjust the values of the game and to change the level of difficulty. But randomness is going to be there. But in this game, that is a game that has no pretense of being like a serious game, like a game that you have to take very seriously because of the subject matter, etc., etc. It's a game that wants to be fun, wants to be crazy, wants to be like an entertaining ROM. Then that madness, that chaos, that randomness to me is not a problem at all. If anything, it fits the overall profile of the game better than an elegant system would. So in sum, this is not a game to take too seriously, but it's a fun one, definitely one that you can see. You can see that the designer had fun coming up with the game. It's a certain element of fun that simply exudes from every component of design and really then comes to the player, and the player gets to enjoy that too. One minor thing as well, it's still a production, comes in a Ziploc bag, so it's not a big production, so it doesn't look won't look all that great on your shelf, but for a small production the components are still very good. Minor thing, only 2 scenarios, well 3 if you play the 2 of them as a campaign, that is, play the 2 scenarios one after the other, back to back. Still not a huge variety of situations at the level of the scenario, at least of the architecture of the scenario. There will be variety because of the insanity of the action that goes on the board and the way these monsters behave. So the variety is within the scenarios, but overall the architecture, the profile of the scenario doesn't have much variety because you only have 2 of them. Only really minus of any relevance that I can come up with. In general, it is a really fun game. Again, it's not a subtle game. It's not meant to be. It is a game that is about fun, about crazy action, and in that goal that clearly was the goal of the design, there is no doubt that the game is pretty successful.